here at St.Michael's. And some of you are probably here because you know that John has been on sabbatical since April. And so we're very excited to have him back. We are going to ask the family a few questions. And then at the end, if you guys particularly have questions for John, we're going to give you guys a chance to do a little Q and A as well. I'm going to attempt to use this microphone and not like feedback or scream and everybody's ears. Can y'all hear me? Yeah. This is much better. All right. For the sake of the children, we're going to go first so that they can then have a chance to go run around outside. So, KK and Annie, I'm going to ask you guys a couple of questions about your time with Dad, and then you guys can ask your dad some of the questions that y'all came up with for him. So, to begin, KK and Annie, what was it like having Dad at home so much?
I liked it.
You liked it? KK?
Well, I liked being with Daddy closer to me at home than normally.
Not surprising. Okay, I heard that all three of you guys got to go on special dad trips. Can you tell us about the special trip that you took with your dad?
I go to Denver with my daddy, and when we were going to a carnival/water park, we got in a car accident.
You seem really thrilled about that. Was it as funny as it seemed?
Well,
how did we get to the water park?
We had to take a drive from another person.
An Uber?
Uber.
How was the water park?
It was super fun.
Super fun? Did you have a favorite ride at the water park?
Yes. At the carnival part, I love doing like the Ferris wheel.
Very cool. Anything else?
Yes. Also, let's let the baby speak. Okay. So,
anything else you want to add?
yes.
Okay.
Also, I got a lot of candy.
Nice. All right. Okay, Annie.
Going to Washington was a trip I will never forget.
Washington State or Washington, D.C.?
Washington, D.C.
Tell us about it.
I love going to the Capitol. That was really nice.
Yeah?
And the Spy Museum was really fun.
Yeah?
The Spy Museum?
The Spy Museum?
White House.
In the White House.
Anything else?
Nope.
Nope.
I'm kind of a spy myself.
Jack, did you go on a trip with Daddy? Yeah, we'll let Dad answer that one. Dad?
Jack did not get a dedicated trip, although we did spend my last day of sabbatical together at some local parks.
Nice.
Yeah.
Fair.
With all the nannies and moms.
Okay, so you guys went to Denver, went to Colorado. Annie and KK, who was the best passenger in the car? That's a long drive. Who did it best?
Oh, to Colorado.
Yeah, to Colorado. Who do you think?
Jack.
Jack? Who do you think was the best passenger, KK?
I believe it was Mola.
And who had to stop and go to the bathroom the most?
Me?
Excellent. All right. I also heard that you guys started a little business while you were in Colorado. Annie, can you tell us a little bit about that? You guys made some stuff and maybe sold it. Tell me about it.
We made bracelets and lemonade and sold it.
Yeah?
Bracelets.
How much
Bracelets
money,
and
how much money did you make?
138.
Whoa! That's a haul.
And so how much of that money goes to the church?
Oopsies.
Do you have plans for your $138
think it's gone.
Gross profit.
Wait, I want to
Yeah.
answer that.
Do it.
Well, what I'm gonna do with my money, I think I'm just gonna spend it on candy.
That sounds all right. Awesome.
A lot of candy.
Okay, so KK, you had a question for your dad. Do you want to come read it? Do you remember what it was?
I don't actually remember it, but
Okay, well, this is number 4.
My question was, can we go back to Evania?
it might take some contextual explanation.
So the question is, can we go back to Urban Air? Urban Air is a trampoline park that we went to in Denver. It's a chain. They have them in Austin. They open at 11 a.m. They close at 7 p.m. We got there at 11 a.m. We left at 7 p.m. And they also have one in Austin. The answer is yes. We will sometime soon do a daddy-daughter date to Urban Air in Austin.
Wait, I have a follow-up question.
Oh, wait,
Okay, go for it.
did you have a follow-up, KK?
Yes. And Daddy was the best at Evania. He won me lots of candy because he kept guarding his high school in the basketball toss.
Nice.
So I have the record for both Papa Shots at Urban Air in Denver. Just well-known fact.
That was my follow-up.
Okay, nice. Okay, and Annie, do you remember what your question was? No, there were some really good ones. So yours is the first one, Annie.
What?
You can do either one.
What do you think you'll do in your next sabbatical?
What do I think I'll do on my next sabbatical? Well, I'm leaving next week for it, so it's already planned out now. You know, I honestly have not given that any thought. I would be up for a sabbatical as early as 2030, as late as whenever I take it. I guess y'all will be older. Jack will get a daddy-son trip for sure, wherever he wants to go. And other than that, I've given it no thought, and probably will not give that any thought for many, many years, yeah.
All right. Ladies, y'all can take a bow. Thank you very much for being here today. We appreciate you. You are free to stay or go run around. Do whatever you want to do. Jen, gracias.
I want to run around.
Go do it. I love it. All right. The next couple of questions are for Emily. Emily, what was it like for you having John in the house all the time?
I can answer that. She really enjoyed it. It was very special for her.
It was a gift, honestly, to have him so available. There were so many weeks specifically that are just in terms of the normal rhythm and kind of logistical like nightmare that happens sometimes with, particularly like that last week of school for me teaching and wrapping up the school year with everything regarding, you know, forced trail and end of year parties and teacher gifts and finalizing grades, and that, you know, week is always just so ripe with stress, and just to have him available to step in just relinquished an inordinate amount of stress, and it enabled me to enter into that last week of school and other weeks as well, but that one is just the one that pops into my head specifically right now. But the availability piece and just the free hands, yeah, he just really stepped up. However, there were, of course, moments that, you know, there's always that one kitchen drawer that you really need to get into, but he just perpetually just somehow was always standing in front of it. So my refrain was like, you're just always there. Yeah, but it was just such a gift.
Okay, John, I heard that you brought War and Peace on a plane for some light reading when you were traveling. So Emily, as an English teacher, can you please recommend 3 other books for John to read?
I just want to offer one clarification. It was Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, not War and Peace, but there you go.
Oh gosh, putting me on the spot. No, it's mine, Daddy. It's not yours. If I were to recommend 3 books. Honestly, I think I would ask him to read some of the ones that I've read recently as it relates to parenting stuff, just to to create a common language. I read one called The Blessing of a Skinned Knee this summer, which was phenomenal, and actually has an entire chapter specifically on Shabbat and sabbatical, which actually we ended up talking quite a bit about while strolling around Crested Butte with Jack in the stroller.
Is that Wendy Mogul?
Yeah, Wendy Mogul. And she has one called The Blessing of a B- that is on my short list. So yes, we'll read that one together. How about that? And then I'm also reading one called Parenting Getting It Right by Andy, and I'm forgetting his wife's name, Stanley, right now. And that one similarly is really enriching some dialogue. So there's 3, okay.
I recommend Calvin and Hobbes. Just can't go wrong. All right. Emily has also told me, John, that you spent a ton of time exercising and are eyebrows raised, really fit. Can you do the thing where you make your pec muscles dance up and down?
Of course I can, but it would just not be appropriate for this setting. But thank you so much for that question. That's really, really kind of you.
That's as embarrassing as it gets, I promise. Oh my goodness. Okay, so John, can you explain to us a little bit what the difference is between vacation and a sabbatical?
Oh, great question.
So, difference between a vacation and a sabbatical. So, a vacation comes around every year. I take a vacation every summer, usually in the month of July, usually but not always 4 consecutive weeks. And, vacation's a vacation, a time to step away, a mini recharge. But it's full of vacation things. It's all planned. There's experiences. You get the most out of every moment. And what a sabbatical was just a time to completely step away and to have some loose plans. To have for the spirit of it to be rest and prayer and entering into. A time of just listening to God and to see what emerges. On vacation, I always know what day of the week it is. Most days on sabbatical, I did not know what day of the week it was. On vacation, every day is going to be planned. We're going to get the most of it because time's a ticking. On sabbatical, there's a lot of days you just wake up and you think, Lord, life, what's in store for me today? And that is such a rare experience for me. In fact, it's an experience that it was a new experience for me, and it was a real blessing. Yeah.
Was it what you expected it to be?
So was it what I expected it to be? The truth is, it completely exceeded my expectations. I had no idea. I knew that this was something I was supposed to do. I knew that it was a healthy practice. I knew that it was encouraged. I knew that it was something that was healthy for the parish. I had no idea that I would actually return as rested as I am and as eager to be back as I am. So I love you so much, but I'm always a little sad my last week of vacation. It's like, okay, I kind of got a little rest. I could use another week or 2. That's kind of how I always feel. I'm not, there's just a little bit of, vacation's over. There was a real feeling of completion with this sabbatical. And it's very hard for me to articulate, but I wouldn't have taken another day if you had offered it to me, and I wouldn't have cut it short by another day. There was just a real fullness to it, and it began, it ended, and there's more gratitude. There's not a whiff of sadness, it's all gratitude.
Did anything surprise you about your time away?
About my time away from St. Michael's? Kind of. I thought that just a little bit of the patterns of anxiety. I think my assumption was going to be it's really hard for me to leave, and it's going to take a long time for me to unplug. What actually happened was, because of how I structured it, I got on a plane my first day of sabbatical to fly to Arizona for some solitude time, some hiking, some prayer. And I was able to enter into the sabbatical without anxiety very, very quickly. And because of how I structured May with trips, with Emily, with Annie, May was actually super easy. I started having anxiety dreams in June. And I haven't had an anxiety dream about church in years, but the month of June, it's like, what's happening? I mean, I just kind of start having all this anxiety about being away. I want to call people, I want to reach out. And that kind of lasted a little bit in June, then it went away again in July when I was in Colorado. So, yeah, that was surprising, the timing of anxiety. Yeah.
I still have anxiety dreams about registering for classes in college over the phone.
Yeah.
Like where you had to type like beep, boop, boop, and then if you got anything wrong, you had to hang up and start all over again. Yeah, I feel you. Okay, you mentioned before you left that you had planned to attend services at some other churches. What was that like for you?
It was lovely. There's a wonderful church called Holy Comforter. That's just a joke. It's my bed. I wake up and do morning prayer in bed many mornings. It was great. So I didn't go to any Episcopal churches. I went a couple times to a little recent church plant in Terrytown where my friend Daniel Wang is the pastor, to listen to him preach. And they're not a denominational church, but they do Eucharist and all that. And just to kind of be in a space that was similar but different, that was really lovely. It was lovely to hear my friend preach. I've got a neighbor, for instance, who's a Presbyterian pastor, a really good friend, so I got to go to his church to hear him preach. And so obviously whenever you're, not obviously, but you know, as a preacher and a pastor, I have a lot of other friends who are preachers and pastors, both in the Episcopal Church and not in the Episcopal Church, and because I'm with you on Sunday, I never get to hear them. So I think one of the best blessings wasn't the experience of worship. It was really being there to support friends and hearing their perspective. A lot of the spiritual filling of sabbatical wasn't so much on Sunday morning. It was more the solitude, the hiking, the contemplative prayer, the stepping away, the reflection. Because the truth is, a lot of people say, I can't lead worship and worship at the same time. That's never been my experience. I feel most connected when I'm serving. It's when I worship the best. And so when I wasn't serving, it was less about the worship experience, and it was more meaningful to actually be there to support friends who I'd never gotten to see preach before. Yeah.
So Andy and I kind of had one of the same overlap questions. How is post-sabbatical John different than pre-sabbatical John?
Time will tell. So it's a good question. I don't fully know the answer to it. I do return more rested. And I know that there's always, from friends who have taken sabbaticals, I want to be careful because there's a little bit of the post-sabbatical zeal people return with. Well, I'm going to do this differently, and I'm going to change my ways here, and I'm not going to fall back into these patterns. And then, of course, you kind of get back into things, and you know, the gravity of life kind of pulls you back in. It's why we take sabbaticals. But there is a growing desire, and it's going to sound cliche, but I'll explain it, to work smarter. And what I mean by that is one of the things that was so apparent to me before leaving and returning is that there are so many competent people at this church. So many competent people. And whether real or imagined, when I entered here in 2018, kind of the mentality was, you got to do everything. You got to do everything. You got to do everything. And you know, Josh is an incredibly competent associate rector. Elizabeth and Hope and Traywin are wonderful clergy. You're an amazing youth coordinator. I mean, we just have so many people who can do so many amazing things. And I want to do what God's called me to do, to focus on that, but to not be afraid to let others run with things that are theirs to do. And you know, the metaphor that we got in our vestry retreat this weekend was that the skeleton of a 15-year-old girl is perfectly appropriate for the body of a 15-year-old girl, but that skeleton's not appropriate for a 25-year-old girl. And I think what I'm trying to say is I'm a 15-year-old girl. I think what I'm trying to say is that that as we grow, I just need to focus on the things that I'm good at and the things that the rector should do, and as we grow our capacity for other people to do things. I really return with a desire to learn that. Yeah.
Emily's question for you was, how will you take Sabbatical John forward into sort of the everyday realities of life and family rhythms?
How will I take Sabbatical John into the everyday rhythms? Yeah. So a word that kept popping up on my sabbatical as a verb, it's not a real verb, is dadding. D-A-D-I-N-G. It's just, so I'm not somebody who naturally likes mess and chaos and uncertainty and ready. So this is a big shocker to all of you, right? I like things to be neat, tidy, and controlled. And I think one of the discoveries, so I didn't, you know, the nice thing about being with my family so much, I did pray, and there was contemplative prayer and time alone, but so much of the good spiritual stuff was just having my hands more, and I mean this in the best way, just the mess of 3 kids at home and swim meets and taking kids to camp, and I mean I did so much more of that, and it would be wrong to say that like I've thought of that work as some sort of like nuisance to be overcome so I can do my real spiritual work. That's not fair to pre-sabbatical John, but it is true that post-sabbatical John now sees, or at least wishes to see, or has tasted in that experience, that that's where some of the best prayer and transformation happens if I can enter into it. And so just entering more into the beautiful mess of this phase. I was really struck by just how precious the time is. It's very easy to forget that but when you stop, I'm like, they're gonna grow up and be gone soon, you know, and I just really felt that. And so I think returning with dadding as a verb being a value, but a spiritual value. Not something I do on the side of my spiritual life, but part of my spiritual practice. So I'm going to learn the spiritual art of dadding better. Yeah.
All right, we have about 5 minutes. If anybody else, we have some time for Q and A. So if you have a question for John, we would love for you, hey Jack, we would love for you to have that time right now to ask it. Anybody have any questions for John about his sabbatical? Or Emily, or Jack? No?
I have a question.
Yeah.
What is the recommended length of time for a sabbatical? Like, what you said it was perfect, but how long was it?
Yeah, so Episcopal rectors, I would say on the shortest end, a sabbatical is 3 months, and on the long end, it's 5 months. So I took about 3.5. I took about 3.5, yeah. So 3 to 5 months is the recommended sabbatical. Yeah, but 3 is the minimum to really do one. Otherwise, it's a long vacation, yeah.
Jackie.
Did KK eat anything but candy?
So did KK eat anything with candy? So it's kind of funny. She is a picky eater, and we stayed at the Hyatt Regency in Denver downtown, and I was like, you know, part of this was in the past when I've taken them on getaways, they love room service. So I was like, KK, we're doing room service. We get there, and she looks at the menu, she's like, I can't eat any of this. I don't want, I'm like, okay, no, what are we gonna do? So our first outing before we total our rental car, we're obviously all okay, and we're Ubering around Denver, as we go to a store, and I'm like, KK, pick out all the food you want to eat. And of course, we go to the candy aisle, and I'm like, we can't do all this, like we have to have like protein and other, sugar's not a food group. So basically the punchline is for 3 days, she loved it. She ate bagged pasta and microwave bacon for every meal, and she loved it. It was good. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I did not like it.
She loved the bacon and the pasta. Please don't listen. It was very good. I'm happy to volunteer for breakfast Sunday.
We'll bring you in for breakfast taco Sunday.
Yeah.
That skill set works.
Yeah.
Do you have any more questions for John?
Yeah.
Oh, Josh has one in
How
mind.
far did you get in that book list?
How far did I get in the book list? So I started off with lots of ambition to read, and I had a lot of books that I wanted to read. So I didn't get super far. So I started off strong. The first 2 books I read were The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. I read it 3 times so that I could understand it. And I read Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, and then I'm like, this is hard. I just can't. This is so hard. I can't do this anymore. I read some fun ones. Christine gave me, I never read The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That was kind of fun.
Good read.
I listened to some interesting books on Audible, some podcasts, but I would say after mid-June, anything that requires one's intellect, I didn't read, yeah. Yeah.
You mentioned in the sermon that you were working on a book, or that you were writing. Did you get much headway, or just?
Yeah. So I did. I wrote a book on my sabbatical. It is an interesting little book. It's about 20,000 words. It's 30 short chapters. It's a little book on contemplative prayer. It is different from anything I've written in the past. So I've published 3 books before. But I haven't published a book in many, many years. It's outside of what I've normally written about, and I've only sent a draft to just a few people because it just feels kind of vulnerable. I need some feedback before I send it to a potential publisher. I don't know if it's any good, but I did complete it, yeah. I went to the Civil Goat coffee shop about 50 times on my sabbatical, and had never been there before. It's fun. Yeah.
Did you go to the one on Port of Vaux?
Yeah.
Follow us.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like I should ask Gail more questions about your sabbatical because she features frequently in the photos that you sent.
So I saw Gail twice on my sabbatical, once at HEB and then once at my house. I don't know what the occasion.
She was dropping off the gifts for the kids?
Oh yeah, she was dropping off gifts for the kids. It was great to see Gail. And yes, of course. And she kept our azaleas alive. Yeah. It was a joy seeing her at HEB the first time. And at my house, but when I saw you at HEB, it was very much a welcome encounter. I saw many of you at HEB. I saw Scott Madison at HEB. I saw Chris Pensis at HEB. I saw Edwina at HEB. I saw Marcia at I saw, I went on sabbatical. I got HEB. Y'all were all there.
Elizabeth has last question.
I want to know how you get a family of 5 and a dog and stuff for 1 month in Colorado with your car.
How did we what?
How do we fit everything in the car?
How to fit everything in the car? A family of 5, a dog, and stuff for a month. Emily did it.
Well, it was quite the Tetris activity, absolutely. I do want to give I don't know if Chris LeClaire is here, but we do continue to borrow their, what do you call it? The roof carrier. So we put all of our clothes in the roof carrier and squunched everything down, and then anything that was bulky. And we also have a hitch on the back of our car that was tied down in a maze of, what do you call it? The bungee cords, thank you. And I shipped a box of stuff ahead of us that was expensive, and I shouldn't have done that. But
You could have done the wrong thing for the dog.
Can I say one more thing?
Please.
Okay, so the final thing I want to say is I'm so glad to be back. I want to thank all of you for being a part of this parish. I want to thank all of you for your support. I just again want to thank the staff. I want to thank Josh and Traywin and Hope and Elizabeth and Christine and Julie and Jeremy and Bonnie. I feel like I'm accepting an Oscar. I want to thank Hillary and the vestry. It's just, and all of you. This sabbatical was truly a gift. We had a great time. But it's over, and I'm not sad about it. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience, a wonderful chapter, but I'm also just so glad to be back. I missed y'all a ton, and I'm just, whatever's ahead, I'm pumped about it, and it's time to figure it out together. So thank you all so much, and thank you, Bonnie.
Yeah. Thank you, Travis.